what's up everyone? Welcome to Effects Maniac. This is Syed Mahmoud Amiri and I am really excited today. So just thought of doing a tutorial for you guys again. And in this one, I'll be showing you guys how to create this cool sort of infected hand sort of moving effect. I don't know what it is. Just looks cool. So let's take a look. So as you can see, it's a pretty cool effect, and let's get started. I'm gonna go to the project window and we have this footage of my hand just pretending that something is happening under the skin, and I'll make sure to include this in the include the link in the description for this tutorial so that you also can use it. So I'm just gonna go back and drag this into the new comp button. So here we have the footage. Of course, it's a bit bright. We need to color correct it first. So I'm gonna go to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, which I can just give it a bit of a contrast so that we can see it better. And while giving it contrast, you can see that the colors are a bit more vibrant. So what I can do is I can just go to Effect, Color Correction, and Tint, which you can't see it here, but it is there, tint, and I'm just gonna drop it down to maybe 25%, so that maybe even 35, so that we see less of those vibrated colors. And then as you can see, I've placed some track points on the hand to make it easy to track, because there's not really a contrast point on this footage of the hand. So what I can do is I can just use these points to track it. And I'm going to show you guys two ways to track it. And the first one is going to be using the After Effects point tracker, which you can go to Window and bring up the tracker window and click here. And we're going to use the track motion. And basically, you just want to take this track point, and just in case you want it to be a bit more precise, you can just increase the size, maybe this much, and use one of these points. And since I've already done it, this point looks pretty good. And I'm gonna go to the first frame and select this point, and I'm gonna go to the tracker and hit track forward, and I'll be back when it's done. Okay, so the tracking is done, and as you can see, it's done somewhat of a good job of sticking to that point. And now in order to use it in our composition, we have to create a new, right click, new null object, or you can just go to layer, new null, and I'm gonna name it tracking data, and I'll go to edit target and I'll select the tracking data null object. Okay, apply, and X and Y. Okay, so now we have this null object sticking to that exact same point in our footage, and we can basically take anything and link it there. So I'm gonna go select a text, and I can just scale it up from here and maybe link it to that point. So you just need to link it to that tracking data. I'm just gonna link it, and as you can see, it's somewhat taking the movement of that null object and sticking to the surface of the hand. So as you can see, it's looking pretty good, but still I'm not satisfied with this tracking, because if I zoom in and if you look at it, the text is kind of moving around just a little bit, which is not that cool. So that's why I'm going to introduce you guys to another method of tracking. So far we've done the point tracking, which you can just select one point and track it, and it works. Sometimes it doesn't. If you have motion blur, it will not work. So this method of tracking is called planar tracking, which rather than a point, you take a whole like surface and track it. And we're going to be using a piece of software called Mocha AE. It's in After Effects, like we're built-in installed with After Effects, and it's from a company called Imagineer Systems. So if you go to YouTube, and there's the software Mocha showreel, and you can just check out the work they've done. You know, some pretty cool effects that you can do with this. And it's basically the cool thing about it is that it's surface tracking, it's not point tracking. So even though you have motion blur, anything, it will just track the surface no matter what. So you can just check out the Imagineer system, and if you go to their YouTube channel, they have plenty of tutorials there. So if I go to the videos, they have a lot of tutorials that you can learn it. This one is a Mocha Pro, which is a separate software, and the kind of a light version comes with After Effects, which is Mocha AE. So in order to track your footage inside of Mocha AE, the very first thing you should do is you should export your footage as an image sequence. It will work a lot more better. So what I can do is I can just go to Composition, Add to Render Queue, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to select here and go to maybe JPEG sequence and set the quality to maximum. Okay, and I'll select a location for it, and I'm gonna name it like tracking. Hit OK and render. So what it will basically do, even though we have that text, it doesn't matter because we're doing the planar tracking, so it doesn't matter. And actually it's good to show you that, you know, once you select the surface, it doesn't matter what is inside, it will just track the surface. Okay, so just let it done, and once it's done, I'm gonna go and bring that footage. So I'll double click and I'll go to that folder, and I'm just gonna select the first image and import JPEG sequence and import it and create a new composition. So this is our footage here, and this text makes it, you know, even more unique, and so I can show you guys how to track it perfectly. So I'm gonna go to Animation, Track in Mocha AE, and it'll basically launch, and just you can name it. And the important thing is this frame rate. So if you go back in After Effects, this is 30 frames per second, and this should be the same. So 30 frames and hit OK. So here we have our footage inside of Mocha, and basically it's a different software, of course, but it's pretty easy to learn. And the main things we have is we have a zoom tool so that you can zoom in to your footage wherever you want, and you can take the hand tool and go like anywhere close and make it precise. And for making a surface, you just need to use the pen tool. You can use the X-spline tool, you can use the Bezier layer tool. I'm just gonna go and create the X-spline, and you just want to track the area. Click once and click around the area that you want to track. Basically, it will create a surface around that area. And once you're done, you can just right click or click on the beginning point, it doesn't matter, just right click and it'll create a surface. So once you're done making your surface, you can just go and basically first before tracking, you can just select these areas and like translation, scale, rotation. Maybe sometimes you need perspective also, but in this case we'll just ignore it. We'll just click it off, and you can go and hit the track forward button. So it will basically track it, and as you can see, it does a pretty good job of sticking to that surface. So I'm gonna let it track, and I'll be back when it's done. So it is done tracking, and I'm gonna go back to that point, to that green dot point, and I'm gonna track backwards because we're left off a bit of footage. So I'm gonna let it track. So the tracking is done, and as you can see, this surface is stuck right on top of the footage, and it's done a pretty good job, and it's like solid track. So once it's done, you can just go to export tracking data, and you can use two options here. You can use the corner pin and you can use the transform. So corner pin is basically a 4-point track, which you can use it in cases like if you want to track a phone surface or any like a flat surface, which I may do a tutorial on that in later. But in this case, we're going to be using the After Effects transform data, which is basically the position, scale, and rotation. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go copy to clipboard, and I'll go back into After Effects, and here I'm just gonna go to Layer, New, Null Object, and I'm gonna rename it to Tracking Data. Something wrong. Okay, so I'll just go to the first frame and I'll go to Edit and Paste. And if I hit U on this, I can see all the keyframes for the position, scale, and rotation, which is done by Mocha. So here we have the tracking null object, tracking data, and now we'll bring up the wound. So I just want to show you guys where I got it from. If you go to Google and do a search for hand wound, you can come up with some pretty gross looking hand wounds, which I don't know they're real. But anyways, I've used this one, and this happened to be a scar wax, fake blood, and some mashed banana, which it looks cool. I mean, it looks kind of real. So you can just save this and bring it into After Effects, which I have it in the footage folder, and I'm gonna bring it in here, and as you can see, it's there. So I'm just gonna mask off the area of the wound. So I'll take the pen tool and start masking. So it's done, and now I'm gonna hit F and feather it a bit so that the edges are smooth. And I'm just gonna hit the W key, or take the rotation tool and rotate it so that it matches up with the direction of the hand. And I'm gonna scale it down, hit S, and maybe this much. We can just cover the text because it was there. And yeah, so maybe scale it down a bit more. And now we'll turn off the mask and we'll hit enter on this, name it wound. And we just need to match the color with the color of the footage. So I'll just go to Effect, Color Correction, and I'm going to use the Curves effect to bring it down just a little bit, maybe this much. And I'll go to the red channel and bring it down, maybe not that much. And I'll go to the blue channel and bring it up just a bit. And I'll use another one also. So we can just Control D this one, Control D, and reset it, and maybe give it a bit more of a contrast, and go to the red channel and bring it down, and go to the blue channel and bring it up a bit. So now it's looking cool, but maybe it's a little too saturated, so we can use the tint effect. Again, it's not gonna probably be there in the list. If you can't find it, just go to Effects and Presets and type tint, and it'll bring it up, and go apply it. And we just want like maybe 25%, or you can just increase it based on your needs. And if I just link it to the tracking data, you can see that it's perfectly linked to that part, okay, to the hand. But there is one small problem, and that is that the muscles under the skin of the hand, they are moving and they're kind of changing the form. So in order to make it look real, we need to like apply some kind of that movement, as if those movements of the muscle are affecting this wound. So we can use the effect distort, and there's an effect called turbulent displace. Again, it might be off the bottom, but it's there. You can search it also, turbulent displace, from here. And now if I decrease the size and increase the amount, you can see that it kind of distorts it in a weird way. But I just want a little bit, and we can just Control D this one, duplicate it, and the second level we want it to be small, but we want it to be more. So it kind of, you know, not that much, but a bit this much. But the cool thing about this effect is that we can animate it using the evolution, so you can see that it's kind of moving. So you can just keyframe it, or I can just alt click on this keyframe and hit and type time, multiply it by a value. It depends on the movement of the muscles. If it's fast, you can just maybe like 100. Let's see. It's not enough. Maybe you can go with 250. And now you can see it's moving also. It just kind of gives it a bit of a realistic look. And if you want, you can keyframe this one too, which is a little bit bigger. Maybe we'll do this one also. Alt click, time multiplied by maybe 200, and we'll see that it's kind of moving with the movement of the muscle. So now that the tracking and the animation of the wound is done, I'm just gonna go and create a new adjustment layer for the color correction. I'm gonna hit enter and CC, and I'm gonna go effect, color correction, and curves. I use this a lot. And if I just decrease this a bit, you can see that there is a bit of a difference on the edge of this wound with the skin. Skin is a bit, you know, like skinny type, skinish color, and this thing is a bit like grayish color. So we just need to match that up also. So I'm gonna go to that curves, that second one, and let's see what we can do. Let's go to the red, maybe increase it a bit. You can see that not that much, I mean this much, and you can just adjust the different levels. This is the shadows and this is the highlights. So if I just go there maybe a bit, and I'll go to the blue channel and bring up the highlights a bit in the blue, maybe this much, or maybe I can just add another curves. Go to color correction, curves, and we'll focus on the edges. So I'll just maybe expand this a bit and I'll bring it down or up, or any ways you want it. Just try to make sure that they're blending well, and maybe there's too much feathers. So if I can hit F and bring it, maybe it's not that much, this much is fine. And I'll just go to the red channel and increase it a bit, especially on those highlight areas. And I'll go to the blue channel and I'll just increase it a bit, maybe this much. Okay, so now it's kind of looking a bit like they're matching up a bit, and I'll go to the CC layer and I'll just give it kind of a cool cinematic look. So I'm just gonna go to the red and bring it down maybe a bit. I'll go to the blue, increase it a bit, especially in the shadows. But as you can see, it's a bit intense, so I can just hit T on this and bring the opacity to maybe 50%, and that's it. So if I just play it now, you can see that it's tracked perfectly and it's taking the movement also. Of course, you can put a lot more time into it and do some tweaks and things to make it look even better, and you can use different wounds and like different images. But for our tutorial, this will do just fine. And finally, if I go to the footage in the comps folder, which is this one, you can see that I've added some more details. If I go inside this comp, you can see that I've added a lot of details. I've used 3 curves, displacement maps, and the color is matching a bit. And yeah, so you guys also can do it and match it as best as you can. And for the sound effects, I use the Video Copilot's motion pulse, which if I go to the Chrome, here it is, the Video Copilot website. And if you're using After Effects and you don't know about Video Copilot, I'm just sorry for you. It's this Video Copilot is like the origin of After Effects tutorials and products. This guy makes a lot of tutorials, and he's like at an insane level. And you can check this thing. It's called the Motion Pulse, and it's got 2,000 sound effects of some really cool different sounds, glitches, noise, and things, which I basically used to mimic the sound of this wound in this video's demo. And yeah, that's it for today's tutorial. And if I go back to this comp, and I really appreciate you guys' comments and likes on the last video tutorial, the first one that I made. And I just want you to know that I'm trying to get better day by day, and I just need your guys' support. So give the video a thumbs up if you like it, share your comments, any questions you might have, and you know, we've covered a lot in this tutorial, and if you want like maybe Mocha, maybe you want a detailed tutorial on Mocha, I can make that for you. Just share it in the comments and subscribe to my channel, and that is the only way that I can keep making these tutorials for you guys. So this was today's tutorial, and hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, enjoy working.